Spare a coin for an old beggar? I'm only asking to feed me kids. Blessings of Nocturnal upon thee. What? You do not know of Nocturnal? Nocturnal is the Daedric prince of night, mystery, and darkness. While I've never worshipped her myself, I know many a beggar and many a thief that would throw down a quick prayer to the Lady of Twilight for a little bit of luck just before snagging the last coin purse in the tavern. I've even heard tell of some thieves who would steal from Nocturnal herself. Can you imagine what it'd be like if you were able to steal the skeleton key from Nocturnal? Not to mention that everyone would know that you had the stealth to rival a Daedra. You know, for some more gold, I could remember some more stories about Nocturnal. Perfect. How about hiding with the shadow? Concerning the nature of thieves and their relationship with Nocturnal. I found this one in the caverns by Lake Arius a couple of years ago. There are few professions that require the practitioner to be more self-reliant than that of a thief. A thief is by nature a loner. He trusts no one and is trusted by few. He cannot go to a master and become an apprentice. He has no guild to collect and codify how to ply his craft. He does his crimes alone and in the dark of night. He must hide by day to avoid the capture by the authorities. The only known deity recognized by thieves is Nocturnal. Not truly a goddess, this Daedric lord is nonetheless a potent figure. She is the mistress of shadows, holding sway over secrets and stealth. She does not ask for worshippers, nor does she necessarily give blessings to those that recognize her. In fact, there are no known temples to her in Cyrodiil, although there are rumors of a forgotten shrine. In other words, she is perfectly suited to the criminal mind of a thief. By and large, thieves are a godless lot. They believe only in their skills and cunning. However, since the existence and influence of the gods and Daedric lords is undeniable, they have an uneasy relationship with Nocturnal. Though some thieves truly worship her, most choose to offer their respect and reverence without fealty. These thieves recognize that should they offend the Mistress of Shadows, it might go poorly for them. However, true worship and fealty does not have any known benefit. The classic blessing of thieves is, "Shadow hide you." This is an oblique reference to Nocturnal. However, it can also be interpreted to be a non-theistic statement of actual shadows hiding the thief. Thieves tend to dress in black clothes or dark clothing. While this is a practical thing for their criminal endeavors, it is unnecessary during the daylight hours. Yet many thieves still don these shadowy colors in silent recognition of Nocturnal. The most shocking link between the nebulous culture of thieves and Nocturnal is the tale of the Grey Fox. He is the mystic king of thieves. The legends state that he stole the hood off Nocturnal's cloak. Obviously, this is just a story invented centuries ago to bolster their feelings of self-worth. However, it is indicative of the continued link between the Daedric Lord and the criminals of the Empire. Ooh, how about this one next? The last book Worgen Yarf ever wrote, Purloined Shadows, a chill tale recounting the theft of Nocturnal's cloak. This book can be found just about anywhere if you really know where to look. Chapter 1. The candle was lit, and the thief was standing there, blinking, caught. She was young, rather dirty, wearing ragged black clothes that were surely smart and expensive weeks ago when she had stolen them from one of the city's best tailors. The look of surprise slipped from her face, and then she took on a blank expression as she put the gold back on the table. "What are you doing here?" the man with the candle asked, stepping from the shadows. "That's a stupid question," the girl replied, frowning. "I'm obviously robbing you." "Since nothing I have is missing," the man smiled, glancing at the gold on the table, "I would have to say you are not robbing me. Attempting to rob me, perhaps. The question I have is, why? You know who I am, I assume. You didn't come in through an unlocked door." "I've stolen from everyone else. I've taken soul gems from the Mages Guild. I've robbed the treasury of the most secure fortress. I cheated the Archbishop of Julianos. I even pickpocketed the Emperor Pelagius at his coronation. Thought it was your turn." "Oh, I'm flattered," the man nodded. "Now that your ambitions have been thwarted, What will you do? Flee? Perhaps retire? Teach me, the girl replied, a little grin finding its way unconsciously on her face. I picked all your locks. I slipped past all your wards. You designed them. You know how difficult that was for someone without training. I didn't come here for 6 gold pieces. I came here to prove myself. Make me your student. The Master of Stealth looked at the little girl burglar. Your skill is not in need of training. Your planning is adequate, but I can help you with that. What is without hope is your ambition. You are past stealing for livelihood. Now you steal for the pleasure of it, for the challenge. That is a personality trait which is incurable and will lead you to an early grave. Haven't you ever wanted to steal something that can't be stolen? The girl asked. Something that would make your name known forever? The master did not answer. He only frowned. Clearly I was fooled by your reputation. She shrugged and opened a window. I thought you might want to be a willing accomplice on a great act of thievery, which will go down in history. Like you said, my skills at planning are only adequate. I didn't have in mind an escape route, but this will have to do. The burglar slipped down the sheer wall, dashed across the shadowy courtyard, and within a few minutes was back in her room in the run-down tavern. The master was waiting for her, in the dark. I didn't see you go past me, she gasped. You turned on the street when you heard the owl call, he replied. The most important tool in a thief's repertoire is distraction, either planned or improvised. I suppose your lessons have begun. And what is the final test? The girl smiled. When he told her, she could only stare. She had, it seemed, not misunderstood his reputation for daring. Not at all. Chapter 2. For the week leading up to the 8th of Hearthfire, the skies above Rindale were dark and alive, as clouds of crows blotted out the sun. Their guttural squawks and groans deafened all. The peasants wisely bolted up their doors and windows, praying to survival that most unholy of days. On the night of the summoning, the birds fell silent, their black, unblinking eyes following the witch's march into the glen. There were no moons to light the way, only the leader's single torch in the gloom. Their white robes appeared as indistinct shapes, like the faintest of ghosts. Tall trees stood in the middle of the clearing, every branch thick with crows, watching the procession without moving. The lead witch placed the torch at the base of the tree, and her 17 followers formed a circle and began their slow, strange, wailing chant. As they sang, the glow of the torch began to change. It did not diminish at all, but its color became more and more gray. It seemed a pulsating wave of ash had fallen over the witches. Then it grew darker still, so that for a moment, though the fire yet burned, it was dark as night in the forest. The penumbra continued until the torch was burning a color without a name. Emptiness beyond mere blackness. It cast a glow, but it was an unnatural scintillation falling on the witches. Their robes of white became black. The Dunmer among them all had eyes of green, and ivory white flesh. The Nords appeared black as coal. The crows watching overhead were as pure white as the witches' cloaks. The Daedric princess, Nocturnal, stepped out of the pit of Uncolored. She stood there in the center of the circle, the tree of pallid crows her throne, aloof, as the witches continued their chanting, dropping their robes to prostrate themselves naked before their great mistress. Wrapping her night cloak around her, she smiled at their song. It spoke of her mystery, her veiled beauty, of eternal shadow and divine future when the sun burns no more. Nocturnal let her cloak slide from her shoulders and was naked. Her witches did not raise their head from the ground, but continued their hymn of darkness. Now, said the girl to herself. She had been in the tree all day, dressed in a ridiculous suit of mock crows. It was uncomfortable, but when the witches arrived, she forgot all her aches and concentrated on being perfectly still, like the other crows in the tree. It had taken considerable planning and study between her and the Master of Stealth to find the glen and to learn what to expect in the summoning of Nocturnal. Gently, silently, the burglar eased down the branches of the tree, coming closer and closer to the Daedric princess. She let herself break concentration for just a moment and wondered where the master was. He had been confident in the plan. He said that when Nocturnal dropped her cloak, there would be a distraction, and it could be quickly taken in the instant provided the girl was in position at the precise right moment. As the girl climbed along the lowest of the branches, she carefully pushed aside the crows that were, as the master said, transfixed by the princess in her naked beauty. The girl was now close enough, if she only reached out her arm, to touch Nocturnal's back. The song was rising to a crescendo. The girl knew that the ceremony would soon be over. Nocturnal would clothe herself before the witches ended the chant, and the chance to take the cloak would be over. The girl gripped the tree branch tightly as her mind raced. Could it be that the master was not there at all? Was this conceivably the entire test? Was it only to show what could be done, not to do it? The girl was furious. She had done everything perfectly, but her so-called master of stealth had proven himself to be a coward. Perhaps he had taught her a little in the months it took to plan this, but was it worth it? Only one thing made her smile. On the night when she had stolen into his stronghold, she had kept one single gold piece, and he never suspected it. It was symbolic as stealing the cloak from Nocturnal in its way, proving that the master thief could be robbed. The girl was so lost in her mind that she thought she could imagine it for a moment, when a man's voice yelled out from the darkness, "Mistress." The next words, she knew she didn't imagine. "Mistress, a thief, behind you." The witches raised their heads and screamed, ruining the sanctity of the ceremony as they charged forward. The crows awoke and burst from the tree in an explosion of feathers and toad-like cries. Nocturnal herself whirled around, affixing the girl with her black eyes. "Who art thee who dares profane?" the princess hissed, as the pitch shadows flew from her body, enveloping the girl with a lethal chill. In the last instant before she was swallowed alive by darkness, the girl looked on the ground and saw the cloak was gone, and she answered, as she understood, "Oh, who am I? I'm the distraction." And one last one from my collection, Song of Hrormir, the epic narrative of Hrormir, one-time champion of Nocturnal. You might be able to find yourself a copy if you go to the arena, but just make sure Brainwind doesn't see you picking around through his chests. Hrormir, son of Holgar, summoned to the court of Vindak, son of Vinmor, king of Eversnow. Mighty caster of magic, I charge thee to go to Alfendor, for its hoary warriors do threaten my land, and bring forth their cousin demons to terrify my people. Hrormir, son of Holgar, heard the words of Vindak Eversnow. By high staff, surely I would help thee, but I already have a quest to drink 12 flagons of mead in 1 hour, and then to bed 4 wenches twice each. So, I must with grace decline. The king did not smile at Hrormir and his jolly spirit. By thine honor must thou aidest my cause, for must thou takest up the sword of thine companion Darfang, who took up the quest and failed. Hrormir laughed. Oh, now I know thou jest. My boon-mate Darfang wouldn't not fail. There be no finer bladesman. If thou chargest him, he wouldn't not fall. I did not say fell. He joined the Dark Kings of Alfendor, and by doing so, dishonored himself and thee, his friend. Hrormir could not believe the words, and yet he knew Eversnow didst not lie. So for 20 days and 3 roadeth he to the land of night in the kingdom of fear, where the peasants ever carried candles, knowing what evil awaited them should they stray beyond the glow. The sovereignty of 3 dark kings, Alfendor. There, torch in hand, did his Hrormir pass through haunted countryside and frightened villages, and through the black gates of the blacker castle Alfendor. The 3 dark kings did a sneer at the sight of mighty Hrormir, and summoned they their champion Darfang the Blade. My boon companion, Hrormir called in the hall of night. I dare not trust my eyes, for then I wouldn't believe that thou hast joined with evil and turned thy way from honor and brotherhood. Hrormir, Darfang the Blade did his cry. If thou does not go now, one of us must die, for I hate thee. But Hrormir was battle-ready, and in the echoing halls of night, the blade of Darfang and the staff of Hrormir did his strike again and yet again. The boon companions, now foes, shook Mundus with their war. They might have fought a year if there were a sun in Alfendor to mark time, and either Hrormir or Darfang may verily have won. But Hrormir saw through the dark, the tears in the eye of his former friend, and then he saw the shadow of Darfang were not his own. And so with Ice Staff he did strike, not Darfang, but his shadow, which cried,
"Hold, mortal man."
From the shadow becometh the hag, bent and twisted in her cloak and hood. From her faceless shadows she hissed,
"Mortal man called Hrormir, the soul of thy boon champion is my plaything, but I will take thine in trade, for though ye both have strong arms, thou hast the more clever mind, which my sons the Dark Kings need for a champion of Alfendor."
Hrormir the Brave didst not take a breath or pause before he boldly said, "Shadowy hag, release Darfang and thou mayst use me as thou wilt." The hag didst laugh and freed Darfang.
"To save thine honor, this thou hast done. But now thou must be without honor, mortal man, as the champion of Dark Kings. My heirs of Grey may be. Thou must help them divide Alfendor, and love me, thy shadowy hag, and thy mistress well."
For his loss of honor and his dear friend's sacrifice, noble Darfang prepared to take his dagger and plunge it into his good heart. But Hrormir stayed his brother's hand and whispered, "No, boon companion, wait for me at the village banquet hall." And then did Darfang the Blade leave the castle, while Hrormir took the withered claw of the hag and pressed it to his lips. "Shadowy hag, to thee I pledge to only honor thy black words, to turn my back on truth, to aid thy Dark King's ambition, to divide their inheritance fairly, to love thee, to think thee beautiful." Then to the chamber in the heart of night, Hrormir and the hag did retire. Kissed he there her wrinkled lips and her wrinkled sagging breasts. For 10 days and nights and 3 did Hrormir the Ice Staff battle thus. Then sweet Kinnereth blew honeyed winds o'er the hills and forest glens of Alfendor, and the caress of warm-blooded Dibella coaxed the blossoms to wanted display, so that Alfendor became a garden of all the senses. The frightened servants of the Dark Kings woke to find there was naught to fear, and through the once dark streets of the village came the cries of celebration. In the banquet hall of the village, Hrormir and his boon companion Darfang embraced and drank of rich mead. The shadowy hag, too, was smiling, sleeping still in her soft bed, until the morning sun touched her naked face, and she awoke and saw all, and knew all saw her, and she cried out,
"Mortal man!"
Night fell fast upon the land as the hag flew into the banquet hall, casting blackest darkness in her wake. But all the celebrants still could see her anger in her monstrous face, and they shook with fear. The hag had said the kingdom was to be divided among her heirs, but Alfendor had been kept whole, while her children divided, drawn, and quartered. Hrormir was mightily amused. He swallowed his laughter in his mead, for none should laugh outright at the Daedric Lord Nocturnal. Without her grey cowl of shadowed night, her hideous face forced the moons to hide themselves. Hrormir the Mighty did not quail. "Where is thou hood, shadowy hag?"
"Mortal man has taken it from me, unaware. When I awoke, my face unmasked, my kingdom cast into light, my Dark King heirs in pieces cast, and here my champion smiles. Yet in truth, thou kept thy promise truly, to never keep thy promise true."
Hrormir, son of Horgar, bowed to the hag, his queen. "And evermore, till thou release me, I will serve thee so."
A clever mind in a companion is such an overvalued trait.
The hag released Hrormir's soul, and he released her hood. And so in light of darkest dark, she left Alfindor evermore. And after drinking 12 flagons of mead, and bedding 4 wenches twice each, did Darfang return to Eversnow with Hrormir, son of Hrorgar. Hell yeah, man, hell yeah. I hope you enjoyed these 3 stories. If you did, you know what you gotta do. Like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. If you have any other suggestions of stories in the wonderful world of Cyrodiil you would like me to look at or read, let me know, because I'll do it. I don't care. And of course, Shadow hide you.